Hello, Guitar Smarts fans. Before you check out this podcast, I want to make you aware of a cool new place where you can interact with other Guitar Smarts listeners. It's a Facebook group called the Guitar Geek Hangout. That's where we hang out and talk about all things guitar. So, if you like the Guitar Smarts podcast, come and chat with Kieran and myself over in the Guitar Geek Hangout on Facebook. Maybe check out some pre-podcast clips and even get involved in asking and answering lots of questions from the other page dwellers. Hope to see you there.
You're not going to just get his sound. You need his fingers and his hands and his head to get. It's not just a guitar thing.
Well, that's the thing.
If you give him a Joe Bonamassa Les Paul, he's not going to suddenly sound like Eric Johnson, is he? So
no. I thought you were going to say Joe Bonamassa.
I had a little dig there.
Implying that Joe Bonamassa doesn't sound like Joe Bonamassa. That's harsh. That's brutal.
I feel bad.
That is brutal.
I love Joe Bonamassa. Greetings, welcome to another episode of the Guitar Smarts podcast. Thank you very much for downloading. For quite a few decades now, many guitar manufacturers have honoured some of their most famous users with signature instruments. Arguably the oldest signature instrument is the Gibson Les Paul, which has evolved into a whole range of guitars. For some guitarists, a signature guitar is a representation of what they prefer in a standard instrument, and for some it's more of a custom design tool made to give them the functionality that they need. Are they a marketing tool or a cash cow for some manufacturers, or do they represent a genuine option on the path to sonic freedom for the average Joe guitarist? That's what we're discussing this week. Signature guitars, are they any good? Are they worth it? What are the good ones? What are the bad ones? Come and join us on our social media pages. You can find us at facebook.com/Guitar Smarts, and we're on Instagram as well. You can find us there at guitar_smarts. And also, please, before you go on to the podcast, one of the things that really helps us quite a lot is if you rate and review our podcast. It doesn't take very long to do it, and in fact, to make it easier, I've left links in the show notes for the podcast. You just need to click on those links and you'll get taken to the page where you can leave us a review or a rating, and that helps us to appear in more searches for guitar related podcasts. Anyway, that's enough waffle from me. Let's get to it. Hey Kieran, how you doing, mate? You well?
Yeah, really good, Matt. Really good. Lovely to speak to you.
Yeah, you too, mate. It's been a couple of weeks, hasn't it? Because we've other things have been getting in the way. But what's new with you? What have you been doing over the last couple of weeks, guitar-wise?
Yeah, so a bit of practicing, which is always good. A bit of rehearsing with this new band that I've joined, this new rock band, and we've got our first gig tonight in Southampton, UK. So yeah, I'm out gigging tonight, which feels incredibly strange after this lockdown period. First gig with a new band, and a venue that I haven't played before, which is on a marina somewhere in Southampton, and it's an outdoor stage, obviously because we're still pretty much within the lockdown rules, but things are starting to get back to normal. But yeah, live music is still outside, so I'm praying that it's going to stay dry because I don't fancy playing in the rain. Yeah. So hopefully I won't need a coat either, but let's see.
Wow. Well, good luck, Matt. Good luck. You feeling ready? You feeling prepared? Have you got your Boy Scouts guide to gigging bag all prepared and everything?
I so have, mate. You'd be so proud of me. I have. I've got my two guitars set up and ready to go, as per everything we've discussed around. Yeah. New hard cases ready for that, and strap locks put on the guitars. They're all set up and good to go. I've got my case next to me now, which is like meticulously organised with everything Boy Scoutish in it for all eventualities. So yeah, I had a bit of a panic moment the other day when we were rehearsing my main guitar that I'm going to use for this band. One of the pickups started to play up. Clearly there was a cold solder joint somewhere, so thankfully rectified that. But at the rehearsal I didn't have anything else to fall back on. I didn't have a spare guitar, I didn't have a soldering iron, not that I would necessarily bring a soldering iron to a gig to fix it, but I was kind of like, this is exactly what we talked about, needing to prepare for on a gig, and it's just it's given me even more impetus tonight to take everything that I need within reason to get out of that kind of situation. So I had that experience firsthand. First chord of the rehearsal this week, and the guitar, I just lost the bridge pickup, and I was like, oh man, I'm glad that didn't happen on the gig night. But, yeah,
no, absolutely. But it just goes to show you, doesn't it, that, I mean, you are self-confessed quite an OCD person when it comes to your guitars. You know, you look after things, I'm sure, you know, an order of magnitude more than most people would do. Most people would probably just, you know, pick their guitar up and everything that they usually take to the gig and they get through it fine. But it goes to show somebody even as well prepared as you can still have some technical issues that you can prepare for. So go back and listen to those podcasts and be reminded of the things you can do to be more prepared for eventualities like that, you know.
Absolutely. It's good advice, mate. And then just I've got a few guitars sitting waiting to be set up and serviced for folk that are also looking to get out there and gig. So next week is going to be a very busy week of modding guitars, but not my own. They're going to be other people's guitars. So hopefully there'll be some happy customers at the end of the day with their new guitars. So yeah, it's busy times at the moment, and then with work and everything, and then the football this weekend with England being in the final of the Euro. So
come on, England.
Come on, England.
Any Italian listeners out there know hard feelings, but well, I mean, actually, by the time this comes out, we'll know who won or not. So it may be that
that's true.
We don't know yet.
Yeah, that's true. But how about you, mate? How's your week been?
Yeah, it's been okay. I haven't been particularly well over the last couple of weeks of a bad cold. But other than that, I've been, you know, work's been busy, but I've been doing a lot of practice, a lot of playing guitar as well. You know, I've been playing quite a lot with the Positive Grid Bias FX software, which is just what I use for silent practice and for recording. But one of the things I've never been able to get into over 20 odd years of playing is the sound, you know, like proper Marshall sounds. You know, I've always loved the sound of Fender amps, or you know, the more American style thing. But I managed to dial in a really great kind of JTM 45, you know, early plexi kind of Clapton cream lead tone, and I'm currently just like captivated by that sound. So I'm kind of like, I really get it now. I really get that Marshall sound. So and I messaged you yesterday, didn't I? Say I'm thinking of changing the entire rig already. That's kind of what sparked. I'm like, I've got to get that. You know, I love that sound in Positive Grid, but I've got to get that into my rig somehow. So I'm currently thinking about whether or not like some kind of preamp, because I don't want to get a Marshall amp. I don't, you know, I like the fact that I've got a very simple and portable setup. So I've been thinking about getting some kind of preamp that can give me that kind of sound, something by like Victory maybe, or something like that.
Oh, nice.
So I don't know. We'll see what happens. But yeah, that's basically. I haven't really been kind of doing my usual practice routine of randomizing certain things. I've just been trying to, you know, enjoy playing and, you know, coming up with some different sounds and being inspired by things that I haven't listened to for quite a long time. But yeah, that's it. That's been it for me for the last few weeks.
Nice, mate. Busy as well. Plus trying to recover from that bad cold that you had. Yeah. So I think, you did make me laugh yesterday when you sent me that message saying you were going to change your rig again. I was like, no. I mean, you've I don't know if we covered this in a previous podcast, but in recent weeks, you'd been sending me pictures of this beautifully laid out new pedal board that you've assembled. Looked really nice and clean, really tidied up, beautiful cable management on your part. And I was just like, oh yeah, that looks great. That's ready to go. And then so to hear yesterday, I'm going to scrap all this and do something different. I was like, what's happened? What has happened? Well, I'm pleased to hear that from you. The impetus potentially for that is the Marshall sound, which I'm a massive fan of. But so I think I texted you back saying maybe get one of these Joyo pedals. The American sound one is one they do, which modulates the kind of Fender amps. But they actually do one called the British sound, which is all Marshall kind of variants in there. So that might be worth for a
I might check
bit
that
of fun playing one of those.
I've been looking at various things as well. Mua do some preamp pedals as well, which and they do have kind of like plexi style and an early kind of Blues Breaker style preamp as well. There's various options for different prices and things. So I'm just trying to kind of look at my options because I really love that sound. You know, that kind of mid-gain snarliness. You know, I mean, I'm thinking of things like if you know the guitar tone Clapton had when he recorded the solo to I Feel Free with Cream, that kind of thing. You know, that almost woman tone sound, which would have been through a cranked JTM, basically, probably in one of the first 50 or 100 watt heads that Marshall brought out in the 60s and 67, something like that. That kind of sound, it's the sound of a loud amp, isn't it? The sound of something cranked power stage and a cranked preamp stage. It's just amazing. I've never really liked the Marshall sound that much. I've always thought it's a bit too rock, but that sound is just it's just that kind of a little bit more. Everyone knows what it is, I don't need to describe it, but I'm coming to like it later in life, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think there is definitely ways you can get that with the right pedals and kind of Fender Tweed style amps. But yeah, I think was it those amps back in the day, the kind of JTMs where they used to actually slash some of the speakers and the cones of the speakers to get it to break up even more. I think
that was a Townsend thing, wasn't it? Yeah, Pete Townsend with the Kinks, right? They used to do things like that. I don't know. Don't know if everyone did that.
No,
because they're not actually that gainy.
That's the thing.
They're not they're quite clean amps. They're just incredibly powerful.
That's right.
They're almost unbearably loud.
That's it.
Actually, it reminds me, if you look online, you look for a rig rundown of Angus Young's guitar rig from when, obviously playing live with AC/DC. He uses about 8 or 12 plexis, all of them on, and they are all on full, and they are all going through cabinets on stage. And his guitar tech is saying, walking across the stage when he's playing is like being tortured. And so he's still managing to play,
That's insane. That's crazy.
And that's there's no pedals or anything. His guitar, I think, goes through some kind of little preamp which exists from a wireless guitar system he had back in the 80s, which just kind of thickened his sound up a bit. Doesn't really add anything. He still goes through that, but his entire sound is still just pure cranked 100 watt, super lead heads from various different models from like late 60s through the 70s. How are you even coping with that?
How does he have any hearing left? That's proper rock and roll, isn't it?
Yeah, it's proper rock and roll, but what a sound.
What a sound. Well, speaking of artists and the gear they use, that's a nice little segue onto today's podcast.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so this week we are talking about signature guitars, signature instruments. What are they? Are they any good? Are they bad? Are they worth it? Is it a marketing ploy for manufacturers? Are they are they really good instruments? We want to talk about the different ones that are available and if they're worth looking at, really. And I think for some guitarists, guitarists who have signature instruments in their name, it's a representation of what they prefer in an instrument, right? It's this is my dream instrument that a manufacturer is honoring me with, and for some, it's more of a custom designed tool that just gives them the functionality they need. So it's there's different types of signature instruments. The cynical part of me thinks that some of them that you see released are just kind of a marketing tool. The kind of the brand's trying to cash in on a particular name. But some signature instruments on the market, I think, offer actually really good value for people looking for something that can open up a little bit more sonic freedom for them. So that's what we're discussing today. Maybe we've got some favorites, maybe we've got some suggestions for people. But what are your thoughts on signature instruments? What can you remember about when you've been learning to play guitar? You obviously had idols who would have maybe had signature instruments. What do you remember about the first that you saw?
So I think back when I was kind of in my formative years of guitar playing, say in my teenage years, you definitely, and I think the same is true today, right? You kind of revere and aspire to sound like your guitar heroes, right? And you therefore look at what gear they're using, what is their guitar that they're using, and rightly or wrongly, you believe that, acquiring the same type of gear as them, and in this case their guitar, is going to get you to be as good as them, or at least get you closer to their sound. Yeah. Right? That's the basic premise. And I don't think that. But then there's the other thing, depending on who your idol was as well, and you end up thinking that guitar just looks really cool as well. There's a look about it, and often you see with artists' signature guitars, they are released in kind of either finishes or specs or designs that are slightly different or very different indeed to what you can buy off the normal production line. And therefore you go, well, I just like the look of it because it looks really cool because so-and-so plays that. So, but for me, you know, I think growing up, the artist signature guitar thing wasn't anywhere near as big a deal as it is now. Today,
yeah, I agree.
Right, you know, the people that I looked up to, even back in those days, Clapton, Slash, you know, Stevie Ray, the list goes on and on. They weren't playing signature guitars built specifically for them. I don't believe by the big brand manufacturers. They were they'd either been gifted some production line stuff by, you know, the company that they could then go and play and take on tour, and maybe they'd made some mods, or the guitar tech had made some mods to it along the way. So then you know that organically develops into a signature guitar. So I think there's definitely like a really nice now a thing that exists where if you want to go and access an artist signature guitar companies have clearly cottoned on to the demand for this, and that people would like to purchase this kind of stuff more so than, you know, going back a couple of decades. So they're making it available, and artists are being approached to design signature guitars or you know, collaborate with manufacturers. And I think that's all a cool thing, right? Because people they'll always want to buy their guitar of their idols or get as close to that as possible because, you know, it's who you're inspired by, right? So I think it's definitely a good thing in the main to have that ability to get that one step closer to your idol. I guess the flip side of it, for me, is where it clearly is a cash grab scheme or a, you know, and I say this as someone who in their day job works in marketing, but where it is clearly like a marketing gimmick, right, to, you know, in its worst form, put an artist's signature onto the headstock of a guitar to sell more units, when actually the guitar in of itself is either nothing significantly different to a standard production line item that you could purchase and make some very small modifications to yourself to get it to that. And yet a fortune is being charged for not a huge amount additive. And for me, that's where I think, you know, people have really got to think maybe carefully about how much they want that signature on the headstock and to outlay that level of money versus what they could achieve themselves and get really close to their idol's guitar. That was a long rant from me. Sorry, mate. Go on. I mean, what are your thoughts on it?
Well, so I'm in agreement with what you're saying there in principle, because for me, a signature guitar, a signature instrument is something that is, you know, what I want from a signature instrument is the manufacturer is basically coming to me and saying, hey, look, this is a guitar that is built, that we're putting out for general release. It's not a limited edition or anything. This is now in our product range, but it's a representation of what a particular artist likes in their instrument, which means it's different to everything else in some way or another. Okay. If it's, hey, this is our standard model of something, but instead it's got Joe Bloggs' signature on the headstock, so it's £1,000 more. I don't really see that as a signature instrument, but I can understand that somebody will want that as maybe a collector's item or something like that, depending on what it is, maybe as if it's done as a limited run. A good example for me is obviously I'm a massive Clapton nerd. Okay. The Clapton Strat was Fender's first signature instrument in the 80s. So it would have been about 87 when that came out. And he's used it since then. Interestingly, do you know who the second signature guitar was for that Fender made?
Oh, good question.
Clapton was the first. Who was the second?
Eric Johnson, not Fleur, don't know.
No, it was Yngwie Malmsteen.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. The angry Swedish neoclassical shred rock guitarist, just picked to the post by Eric Clapton, blues legend and, you know, general guitar god.
So I'll tell you what I like about those examples that you've given is they are, I think, distinctly artist signature guitars based on some of the appointments on those two guitars. You cannot get those on standard production lines, and the artists themselves have specified and wanted and utilized those features. So I think they're two great examples you've given of genuine signatures.
That's the epitome of a signature guitar for me. This is what this person really uses on stage. This is what they're playing, and you can buy that as part of a standard range of guitars. Incidentally, I think that the Clapton Strat, as well as being a great example of what a signature instrument should be, that's a super versatile Strat. If I was saying, if somebody was to say to me, hey, I want to go out and buy a guitar for maybe session work or gigging, I don't know what to get. I want something that's going to give me a lot of tonal options, a lot of classic guitar sounds, some modern sounds, something that's comfortable to play. I'd probably recommend a Clapton Strat if they had a couple of grand to spend on a guitar, because it's a couple of grand. Incidentally, still cheaper than a Les Paul standard, but that's got the TBX tone system. It's got the mid boost in there. It's got noiseless modern pickups built into a 50s style Strat body. Nice slim taper V neck, so comfortable to play. Some people might not like the V profile, but it's going to be comfortable for most people.
But if you do, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. And it's got really good hardware, but it's a simple design. It's that 50s style Strat. I don't think you can go wrong with it, even though it's a very specific design, That TBX tone control means instead of everything just being like a low, a normal tone control is basically you're rolling away high frequencies. The TBX is an active tone system, which is, rather than it being, either all your signal is passed through or you're filtering away the high end, it's in the middle, it's everything gets through. If you turn it down, you're rolling away the top end. If you turn it up, you're rolling away the bass. So it's more like a normal EQ pot on a mixing desk. You're either cutting or you're boosting rather than just cutting away a certain frequency range. So it's a more versatile tonal, system. And the fact that you've got the mid boost means, if your pedal board went down, you could plug straight into your amp and you've still got your overdrive there built into your guitar for solos and things like that. Just a super versatile instrument, whether you like Clapton or not, Same with the Malmsteen thing, probably not as versatile, but that has some very specific appointments, which, if you're a shredder, you're probably going to like that kind of guitar as well. So that's what I like in a signature instrument, something that offers something to you that is, if you're a fan of that guitarist, great, you get an insight into what they're feeling in their hands when they're playing guitar, but also something that gives you, versatile capability, something different, some kind of unique tonal palette that you're probably not used to from other standard instruments.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's really brave of Fender to release that Malmsteen Strat. A scalloped fingerboard is definitely, not to everyone's taste, right?
Yeah.
But blimey, if that's who you idolize and who you want to emulate, and certainly Yngwie feels that's definitely contributory to his playing style and tone to have a scalloped fingerboard, then cool, and you're definitely not going to get that.
Can you, just before you move on, sorry to interrupt you, Kieran, but can you explain for maybe some of our less initiated listeners what a scalloped fingerboard is?
It's where you serve a seafood buffet on your guitar before playing it. So the fretboard is nicely lubricated with seawater and crustacean guts. No, no.
Well, that's the intro sorted.
Little bit of garlic, parsley, butter, a bit of bread for dipping it in. Oh, what a treat! And then into some blazing 80s hair metal. Pretty standard stuff around our way. The amount of requests I get for that every year through the Guitar Tech services.
You don't, do you? Really?
No, I don't. No, I don't.
I mean, I don't mean for the fish on the fretboard.
I was going to say, because scallops are pretty seasonal, so it's. I think you're only supposed to buy them in months that end in a ER, aren't you, or something? So can't do that all year round anyway.
No. Okay.
Shall I stop with this stupid analogy? No, I've never had anybody request me to scallop their fingerboard. Basically, it is where either along the entire length of the neck, or you sometimes see it on just the upper frets of the neck. It's where the fingerboard wood has been very carefully and deliberately shaped to drop away underneath the fret wire, so that when you're actually pressing down on those frets, as you would normally fret, your finger isn't actually coming into contact with the fingerboard itself. It is the string purely coming into contact with the fret wire, and you'd have to press really hard then to be able to get the string and your finger to press into the dip underneath the where the fingerboard would normally be. So it's supposed to create this ability to navigate those frets in a much faster way, because you've got just pure contact between the string and the fingerboard. It also allows you to do some funky stuff with bending.
Yeah, I was going to say it must make it quite difficult to intonate correctly. Obviously. It'll depend on the pressure that you apply. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like bending the string into that space, isn't it?
Yeah, but the theory, I think, is you're not doing so much of that. You're literally just doing a lot of legato style, fast finger work over those frets, and so it creates that sense of playing on air, perhaps. I think is the best way to describe it. But it's really cool. I have tried it out, and it takes a little bit of getting used to, but there's definitely some merit in it. I don't have it on any of my guitars, and it's probably not for me, but it's a definite thing. But maybe don't try it yourself. don't just take like a chisel to your fingerboard and scallop frets out.
Just get the Dremel out and just start grinding away wood from don't do that.
Anyway, so
it's your instrument. Do what you want to do.
Well, yeah, do what you want. Do what you want with it. Put seafood on it if you want. See if that makes a difference.
Exactly.
Somebody probably will tell you it does. I don't know. What do you think? Do people buy artist signature guitars if they're not a fan of the artists themselves?
Well, I think that's definitely going to be something that happens less frequently, but I'd imagine it does happen, especially if you like the appointments that guitar has. But then there are other more subtle signature instruments as well, aren't there, that kind of come out, which you just think, well, this is just meant to look like that person's guitar, but that person's guitar was a standard off-the-shelf instrument. So why not just buy the standard off-the-shelf instrument? But I guess then it comes down to things like, if they've made measurements of that person's guitar, so they've actually tried to make the neck shape and the dimensions of the guitar and the weight of the guitar. There might be more subtle things that somebody's done, like they've changed the tuning pegs to something that they prefer. So signature instruments can be really subtle things, can't they? And I think those are probably more the kind of guitars that people who aren't fans pick up and play, because they may just look at them as another option of a standard line of guitars. But something like a Clapton Strat, I'm sure 99.9% of all Clapton Strats are sold to Clapton fans who want to play Clapton songs, through, Fender amps and they want to play Layla all day long. And I can't imagine this, but, I still think even if you're not a Clapton fan, it's worth having a look at one.
Well, I texted the group, the hive mind of the musos that I kind of drink and party with, and I texted them last night because perfectly and coincidentally, one of the chaps had posted that a new Corey Wong signature guitar had been announced yesterday. Super guitarist, funky, jazzy session dude, amazing. And then he's got a new signature Strat out, and he said, the guy had said, have you seen it? And it is a beautiful looking guitar. It's in this really gorgeous kind of blue color. It's got some slightly unusual appointments, but I kind of challenge back to say, well, it is kind of like a really nice blues Strat that comes with a hairband. Does it justify the signature price? So apparently it comes with a hairband that you put over the tremolo springs to give that dampened sound that the artist in question does to his guitar to make it sound the way he gets it to sound. You go, well, how much are you paying?
Hairband.
Quite. Buy an American Ultra Strat that comes with the compound radius fingerboard and the other kind of appointments, and get yourself a hairband.
I like Corey Wong. I think
me too. I
think he's a great guitarist. Really interesting chap, and his podcast Wong Notes is fantastic as well. He's had some really great artists and people on Wong Notes: Joe Bonamassa, Steve Lukather. Sorry. How far did we get in? I don't know.
Pretty far, actually.
Yeah, Joe Bonacci, Steve Lukather, Larry Carlton, all kinds of people. It's just a really great guest on his podcast. But I know for a fact from conversations he's had on that his main Strat that he plays is a Fender Highway 1 Strat, which came out in about 2002, 2003. I remember, because I remember seeing them in Anderton's in Guildford when I was studying at the ACM, and I went in there and I was looking at guitars, and Fender had just released them. And the big selling point of those was that they were the cheapest American-made instruments that Fender had ever released, and they were only about $500, something like that, 500 quid in the UK. I don't know what they would have been in the US, but I think it usually works out that whatever you pay in pounds here is kind of what you pay in dollars in the US, something like that. So probably $500. So yeah, that's one of the crazy things for me, because now you think, well, if that's a signature instrument of his that's based on his main guitar, are you effectively paying? I don't know how much it is, by the way. I'm assuming it's well over $1,000 or something like that.
It's a couple of grand.
It's a couple of effectively paying a couple of grand for a recreation of a guitar that's probably not heavily modified, that was $500 off the shelf 20 years ago.
It's got some cool switching on it, and it's got a signature set of his pickups, which, if you say what you say, they're probably based on the Highway 1 pickups. And it's got a compound radius fingerboard, but again, so is my American Deluxe Strat, which is an off-the-shelf production line, and that didn't cost $2,000. That cost half of that. So, and as I say, I love him as an artist too. I think he's absolutely phenomenal as a player.
I think he's probably the best rhythm guitarist there is out there at the moment, especially in that kind of funk Prince style guitar playing genre. There is such a recognizable sound. I should point out as well, you're not going to just get his sound. You need his fingers and his hands and his head to get. It's not just a guitar thing.
Well, that's the thing.
If you give him a Joe Bonamassa Les Paul, he's not going to suddenly sound like Eric Johnson, is he? So
no. I thought you were going to say Joe Bonamassa.
I had a little dig, but
implying that Joe Bonamassa doesn't sound like Joe Bonamassa. That's harsh. That's brutal.
I feel bad.
That is brutal.
I love Joe Bonamassa.
It's like every video you send me of his name's gone now.
Philip Says.
Philip Says, who I love. I'm a massive fan of Philip Says. Every video
I'd love to go and see him. He's incredible, but I think he sounds like Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Yeah. Well,
every time he picks up a guitar, which is not. That's not a disrespectful thing to say.
You sounded like Stevie Ray Vaughan. You sound like Stevie Ray Vaughan when you play Lenny. So,
well, to be fair, I mean, it's not a bad thing to say if somebody sounds like Stevie Ray Vaughan. But what I'm saying is that I think it's a part of I guess what I'm thinking is that some signature guitars maybe prey on the preconception of some guitarists that if they want to sound like an idol of them, then they need to get their equipment. There's so much more than just the equipment, isn't it?
For sure. And I think people know that.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think people know that. And look, people aren't that naive. And I myself have lusted after signature guitars because I want to sound like that artist. But then my rational head kicks in and goes, well, what actually is that guitar? And could I just put those appointments or those little specifications onto a standard production line guitar and get the look and sound that I'm after? And sometimes you can do that and save a whole heap of money in doing so, which I think is where you then look at that artist guitar and go, that probably doesn't represent then good value for money, because what the manufacturer is doing is exploiting that desire in people to sound like their idol, and then charging a huge premium for what incrementally is not a huge amount more in guitar. It's just got some slight modifications that you could do yourself, or in some instances can't do yourself easily because it's a particular finish. So you end up paying hundreds more pounds or dollars for a particular finish that you just can't get off the standard, which I think is a bit cheeky. And Gibson, I'm afraid, and again I say this as a huge Gibson fanboy, Gibson are so notorious for for doing this, probably more so than any other manufacturer. And some manufacturers, I think, do a really good job at not exploiting that. Ibanez being one, and we've mentioned Ibanez before. And when you look at some of the signatures they're producing, they're really good value for money, and you're getting something genuinely different. But I think something interesting just happened there in our conversation, which is we felt the need to justify and defend the artist, in lieu of what their signature might be. And I think that's an interesting point as well, which is this isn't about the artist per se. I mean, they probably have not that much sway or kind of influence in how much these guitars are charged and priced at, and what the, actual specs are versus the production line. They just go, well, this is what I want on my guitar. And then the company goes and makes it and goes, great. Would you mind if we made 20,000 of these, put your name on the headstock and sold them as your signature? And the artist goes, yeah, great. I'd love to do that.
Yeah.
But I don't know how many of the artists stop and go, yeah, sure, but how much are you going to charge the general public for that premium? And they go, oh, we're going to charge them 3 times as much because it's got your name on.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you know what? Actually, and I've mentioned these names before, but I think there are 3 manufacturers that fall into that category of being manufacturers that do, they stand for the artist as much as they do for, the instrument to sell. And that's PRS, Music Man, and I think John Suhr guitars as well. Suhr being the more expensive of the bunch in terms of the signature instruments. But if you look at something like Music Man, if you were going to go and get yourself, look at John Petrucci, Dream Theater guitarist. He's got a whole range of signature. I'm having a real trouble saying signature today. A whole range of signature guitars with Music Man. But what Music Man have done is they've worked with the artist to really represent that artist well in the range of instruments they provide. But what they've also done, they created a whole range of instruments in the Sterling range, which is more affordable. So they're not necessarily just saying, well, if you want this guitar, it's thousands of pounds. They're saying, if you can't afford that, hey, we still think about you. We're still going to provide you with options. If you've got, sub $1,000 to spend, you can still do that. You can do that with most of their guitars, most of their mainline signature instruments, whether that's for, Steve Lukather's guitars, whether it's John Petrucci, whether it's Albert Lee, whether it's St. Vincent, all those different signature guitars that they do. They have models represented in the cheaper range as well.
Yeah, PRS did that quite nicely. Yeah, with the Santana range, they do that quite well.
Exactly. Santana range, they did a Bernie Marsden single cut, which was an SE range guitar. One of the guitars I've singled out as well as what I think is an absolutely beautiful instrument is the PRS SE Zach Myers signature guitar.
Haven't seen that one.
It's a single cut PRS with a single F hole, so it's like semi-hollow guitar. It's kind of got a Les Paul arrangement, two volume, 2 tone, single 3-way toggle switch. But that is an absolutely stunning guitar that is, has rave reviews for being just a really beautiful instrument to play. And it's the guitar Zach Myers uses. So it's not like he's using a, custom shop guitar and he's selling these. And that is, it's 825 quid.
So that's
it's sub $1,000. So I really think that those manufacturers do it properly, when it comes to signature guitars.
So here's the thing then. Do you think the PRS Silver Sky is good value for money? Because that's from PRS, right? And that's John Mayer's exact model that he goes out and plays.
I do. Because
that's over $2,000.
It's just over $2,000, isn't it? Which is probably equivalent to the top of the range Fender. I think... About $2,000 is what the Clapton Strat is $2,000, So I think that is fair value, especially when you think about, where that's coming from in terms of, if you know what PRS do and how they design and build their instruments. No disrespect to Fender, but that's something else really. So I do think that PRS Silver Sky is probably worth it because of the design elements that have gone into that guitar, and also how heavily involved the signature artist was involved in creating that guitar as well. I think that's pretty good value. I hate to rant about Gibson, but I think Gibson are a bit of an example of kind of how not to do it. I think they do lean more towards the side of the artist is a bit of a, cash cow for us. We put a signature on our guitar, we limit the run of them so we can inflate the price. I think they sometimes do that rather than having, I could be wrong. I don't know. I'm a bit cynical about Gibson.
No, I think you're right. I think you're right. I mean, I'll be honest. I really do covet the PRS Silver Sky. I think it's a beautiful looking guitar. I don't think it represents brilliant value for money from PRS. If I'm honest, I think some of the PRS stuff with the kind of exotic choice woods and heavily flames and I mean, undoubtedly the Silver Sky is finished beautifully, but it is still a bolt-on neck single S-style guitar with single coils. I mean, is that $2,000 worth of guitar? I think it's unusual, and I think it's different and in its design take on the Fender Strat. But I look at it and I go, that's not $2,000. If they charged $1,500 for that, like $500 less, I'd go, that's really good value for money. But I think there is like a $500 premium on that just because of the John Mayer thing. It's a blinding guitar, but yeah, I don't know. It's not got as much workmanship, even if it's got the PRS quality in my opinion. But what do I know?
You know what is rumoured, don't you? And has been rumoured for some time.
No. A cheaper version of it.
Yeah. Potentially a PRS SE Silver Sky, which I believe may be being built potentially out of Indonesia, out of the Cort factory, which I think they make the SE ranges anyway. And Cort make just absolutely fantastic guitars. So again, another example that I think, for everything PRS do, because PRS, one of the things Paul Reed Smith said in an interview once is, when asked about why they do things the way they do, he says, because as a guitar company and such a young brand of his, the only way to survive in that industry where Fender and Gibson have, much of a monopoly over the business is to be absolutely perfect. So that's why I see PRS guitars as being such good value, because they have, they have an internal culture of perfection, which I don't think Fender and Gibson do. Fender and Gibson still build to prices, and then they have their custom shop and Murphy Lab ranges and things like that, where they kind of let loose and do the best they can. And I think PRS have done things differently, where they've kind of tried to uphold a standard rather than build to a price. They're still building to a price in certain ranges, but they're still trying to, do something differently and uphold that PRS standard. So that's why I disagree with you slightly about the Silver Sky. I think maybe part of the premium you're getting is an attention to detail, a level up of attention to detail than what you would get in a similar price from Fender or Gibson.
So I think that's a really good point. So we've got to go and try this, haven't we? We've got to. We are going to be doing, as a little spoiler alert for our Guitar Smarts audience, we are going to be doing, as things return a little bit more back to normal here and lockdown starts to lift, we're going to take the Guitar Smarts podcast out on the road, so to speak, and we're going to go and do some guitar shop visits. Where we'll do some recording, on site, hopefully, and that is definitely near the top of my list of guitars that I was about to go and try before lockdown hit 18 months ago, and haven't still got round to doing it. So I really want to see if the PRS, the infamous perfectionism, quality control, and all-round fit and finish that we know and love about PRS guitars has translated into their Silver Sky, which I'm sure it must have done, because people are raving about it. But I really want to see firsthand for myself if that's true. So, good shout. So going back to Gibson then, who perhaps don't always get this right, shall we say? I think they do it really well sometimes. And look, people will tell us quite rightly that the Epiphone range of licensed stuff from Gibson is that PRS to SE parallel, where you can go and get a cheaper version of said signature with an Epiphone badge on it. I would argue that's not the same. That's Epiphone, and it might be licensed by Gibson or whatever, but you want a cheaper version with still the Gibson logo on it, but or at least the same shaped headstock. They do some funny things. So my recent example of this is obviously the Slash Signature Gold Top, which I was going to buy, right? And I've been hankering for a Slash Signature guitar for a while. One, because I really like the artist. Two, because Gibson used to produce his signature series with the correct, in my opinion, appointments that he has on his guitar. So the signature Seymour Duncan pickups, the Tone Pros hardware, the finishes that are kind of more akin to his type of finishes. So, in this instance, a dark back gold top, which, Gibson very rarely do out of their standard production line, or even just some of the kind of weird and wonderful finishes that he's chosen. But, I've always maintained, the guitar that Slash uses, well, his original Les Paul was a Chris Derrig kind of copy of a Gibson 59. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't even a Gibson guitar in itself, right? So, and then, moving forward in time, the guitars he used on tour and things were, I think, even Gibson seconds that had been gifted to him by Gibson when he was, first starting to make it big. And they gave him a couple of production line seconds, which he then had refinished and, some his own pickups kind of put into it. So they were just kind of standard production line, not even necessarily the best production line instruments that then became his main guitars. So, you fast forward through time, and then he started to get some signature guitars, through Gibson, and became, Gibson's kind of key spokesperson. And they started to put all the right appointments on those signature guitars. But in 2021, with this latest range of guitars that they're doing for him, or with him, it's not got his standard Seymour Duncan signature pickups in it. Gibson have done their own version of it. It hasn't got the Tone Pros hardware on it. It hasn't got the custom neck profile that his other signatures have got on it, where they've modelled the exact neck profile to his original kind of guitars that he prefers. The whole range of things that you would think would make an artist's signature guitar are just not there on it, apart from his signature, scroll or logo on the back of the headstock. And yet the premium that they're charging in terms of price is significant for a guitar that isn't in my opinion, what the artist's guitar should be. So I think on that one they've got it wrong. But then you kind of look at it in terms of other things that Gibson have done, like with the Kiss signature guitars, like the Ace Frehley ones. They were charging 10 grand for a Les Paul. And you just go, that's just purely, that's not 10 grand's worth of guitar. So I think sometimes Gibson get it a little bit wrong. But again, someone challenge me, someone tell me that these are good value for money and that it's worth it.
I think Gibson are cursed a little bit by their own past in a way. People like who we've mentioned before, people like PRS, Music Man, they have the benefit of a shorter history. They don't have something in their past that they also have to represent in their future, right? Gibson, I've always thought that Gibson are guilty of being a parody of their own history. If you remember back when I had that kind of Murphy Lab rant about, Gibson are effectively, they're just, all they're doing is they understand that the vintage instruments that, other people sell and other people already own that have been around for a long time are the most coveted of their instruments. And effectively, I've always thought all the Murphy Lab series is a way of cashing in on that market. It's creating more vintage, and I'm doing little bunny ears here, for, in quotes, they're creating vintage instruments and putting them on the market for a vintage instrument price. But I don't think that's necessarily their fault, because they have such a wonderful history of creating such beautiful guitars. When people think of Gibson, they don't think of the modern day guitars. People think of the 50 Les Paul, the 59 Les Paul, or they think of the early 50s gold top, or they think of the mid 60s ES335, the 64 that Clapton had, or they think of the early 70s, ES335 that Freddie King played. They think Gibson is propelled forward by the history of beautiful guitars that people have played. So they've got the horrible task of trying to do new and interesting things whilst also creating vintage instruments, basically. That people go, I really love that ES335 Clapton played with Cream. I want to go and get one now. So Gibson are kind of held back by their own history, I think, and that's why I think people like PRS and Music Man have an advantage, that They're not held back by their own history. So they can create modern things and people don't go, oh, that's not as good as a 59 Les Paul. Robot tuners, if Music Man put robot tuners on their guitars, people would think, it's a kind of a Music Man thing to do. Maybe it's a John Petrucci instrument where he wants to change tunings halfway through his prog rock song, you know.
If Steve Lukather went to robot tuners, you'd be a fan of them.
Imagine that.
It's probably true, though. It probably is true, though. And look, I think you've made a really good point, actually, which is, again, made me reconsider, right? So if we're talking about artist signature guitars here, we probably then have to differentiate between production line, non-custom shop, non-historically reproduced, painstaking limited edition guitars. We have to differentiate between, somebody wanting to have an exact replica of Clapton's Blackie, right? Down to every ding, every dent, every, cigarette burn, Slash's original Chris Derrick Les Paul reproduced by Gibson and the custom shop, millimeter to millimeter in terms of wear. Maybe that does justify the ridiculous price tag. I'm not sure it does still, but maybe that in limited runs, because of the collector's value, because of what it represents and the faithful, imitation of the original guitar down to the last detail, maybe that represents something to the collector. It's never going to be a gigged guitar at, 10 grand, 20 grand a guitar, right? But maybe that represents something that is for a niche market that these manufacturers are not necessarily exploiting, because this is for the people that are diehard fans and that would go and spend that level of money on a guitar. Maybe that's a very different, bucket of artist signature instruments compared to going and wanting to buy, the guitar off the production line run of artist signature guitars, where you've got a budget of to try and get close to it. And that's where my issue with Gibson comes up with the latest Slash run. I don't think they're right, and I don't think you should be charging that much of a premium for something that isn't right. That arguably is where your argument stands up around the Silver Sky, which is that's kind of similar money, but it is genuinely different from the other PRSs. It is what John Mayer plays live down to the last thing. He plays the production run ones of those, and you're getting that finish and quality of PRS.
And also, don't forget that John Mayer was a Fender artist before he was a PRS artist. He had a range of signature instruments that, again, like other Fender signature artists, that he not only put his name on, but he helped design and he played, live. So it begs the question, why did he move from Fender to PRS? And I think it's similar to that Gibson argument of Fender being also somewhat held back by their own history. And I think John Mayer probably wanted to do something with the guitars that Fender couldn't do for him, or weren't willing to stretch the relationship between him and, and Fender. And I think that's partly why he went to PRS. And who knows? Who knows how and why these things happen. Just out of interest, by the way, because we were talking about Gibson, and the prices that they put on their signature instruments, but I've just popped onto a guitar retailer online called Guitar. Other retailers are available, but I was on their website already. They've currently got a Gibson Custom Shop Collector's Choice Melvin Franks 1959 Les Paul Standard Burst. Signed, it's number 29. It's signed, I don't know if it's signed by Melvin. I don't know who actually Melvin Franks is, sorry.
No, I don't know.
But obviously that's not a signature instrument, right? That's a collector's piece. That's something that's built to be exactly like a particular guitar. How much do you think that is?
Oh, I like this game. So it's a 59.
It's 59
reissue.
Burst. It's aged, so it's meant to be... It's
VOS
meant to be
spec.
aged as if it's exactly like the 59 that I'm assuming this person, Melvin Franks, played.
Okay. And it's come out of the custom shop, presumably.
Well, I should also point out to you, this is a pre-owned guitar. This is a second-hand instrument.
I see. Yeah. Oh, God knows. I don't know who Melvin is, whether he's the luthier or whether he's an artist. So I'm purely speculating here. But let's say it's going for $6 grand.
Okay, you are way out.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I am by the disdain in your voice. I take it I'm like way under what this is worth.
You are way under. Yeah.
Yeah. 10.
You are almost 6 times.
What? Well,
Yeah.
Oh my God, what?
It's
Okay.
£35,000.
Amazing.
Which I guess, exchange rates for our listeners, upwards of $40,000 currently for sale.
We're supposed to be guitar nerds, and we have no idea about this Les Paul and why it's worth 35. Someone tell us.
Well,
and
if you
explain to
haven't
us.
quite got 35 grand, they do actually also have a pre-owned Gibson custom shop, Ace Frehley 59 burst.
That's the one.
Aged
That's
and
the one.
signed. And number 47, they have one of those for sale for £19,000, $999.
Brilliant. Yeah, I saw somebody buy one of those from my guitar shop locally at 10 grand when they were not pre-owned, when they were new. And I could not believe that for 10 grand that Gibson were doing that. And I watched somebody buy it and I was just gobsmacked, absolutely gobsmacked why someone would spend that. I don't even think the middle pickup works on it by design. All right. Okay. Let's keep playing this. Let's keep playing this game. So I have put in the chat a link. If you clicked on it, don't click on it. You clicked on it already? Yeah.
No, I haven't actually. No, I haven't clicked on it yet.
All right, don't click on it.
Okay, I'm not going to click on it. Okay, go on.
So this is in stock now. So we're not talking about reissued. We're talking about something you can go and buy now, brand new. This is a Fender George Harrison. Now, we do know who George Harrison is, right? Yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
Is that Boxer, wasn't he?
Right. I know you're a Beatles fan, right? So this is I don't know about this George Harrison guitar, but this is a Fender's George Harrison Rocky guitar, right? So to me looks like a Strat. With a rosewood board Strat.
Is it painted? Oh, weirdly?
It is, good man. It is painted, very Technicolor, psychedelic hippie. Clearly, when they were going through their hippie phase, because it's got the kind of Indian Om symbols on it. So maybe when they were doing their tour of India, it's very rainbow-esque coloured. Let me tell you, what have we got? We've got it's custom shop, George Harrison Rocky signature model. It's limited to 100 copies worldwide, so they've made 100 of these only. Master built by Paul Waller. Older body. Neck is, oh my God, how many A's? 5A maple. So, that goes beyond like triple A, clearly. So 5A maple. Okay, let me see the back of the neck.
Those two extra A's, by the way, are so expensive.
Yeah. They are. I mean, it looks like it's got a bit of bird's eye in it when you look at the back of the neck. The back of the neck isn't painted. That's quite beautiful. But the back of the body is obviously just ugly as sin because it's, right. Okay, so what else we got? We got rosewood fingerboard, 60s oval C shape. Vintage radius of 7.265, vintage frets, whatever that means, bone nut. It's got Abigail Ybarra hand-wound 60s single coils, which are in themselves highly revered. So, okay, nice. That's the first thing that's actually got me excited is the fact that it's got Abigail Ybarra pickups in it, mint pick guard, blah, 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 and then these custom graphics. Right, how much would you pay for a hand-painted Strat that looks like what George Harrison must have done to one of his Strats back in the day?
Well, I first got to criticise you slightly because you phrased the question slightly wrong. You said, how much would I pay for it? I wouldn't pay anything for it. I have no interest in it, Ken. Yeah,
that's true. It's a wonder you actually own any guitars. Considering it's like you're this monstrous guitar player that even just like chastises himself by even thinking about buying a guitar. It's like it's wrong on so many levels. All right, how much would I don't know, how much should Fender charge then for this?
So this is well, first of all, how many are there? Is it a limited?
100.
This is obviously
100.
This is 100. There's only 100 of them. Okay,
there's only 100 of them.
So it's got to be
100's quite a big number still. I mean, how many people are? I mean, there's bloody loads of Beatles fans, right? So maybe this would appeal to Beatles fans who are non-guitarists as well. So
when they did the recreation of Blackie, so when Clapton sold Blackie in what would have been 2004, I think it was. 2003.
Right.
He sold Brownie first, and then he sold Blackie.
Yeah.
Around the time of the first Crossroads Festival. And Guitar Centre bought it, and then with Guitar Centre, Fender did a recreation of it. John Cruz went to study the guitar they did for, and then they created about 250 replicas of them, like scratch to scratch, burn to burn, exact replicas. And I think they went on the market each for $25,000. So there's less of these, but I think this is a lesser desirable guitar than Blackie. Blackie was, even John Cruz said in the interview, that's the one Fender always wanted to do, was Blackie. So I'm going to say, maybe it's similar money. I don't know. I'm going to go conservative here and say 15 grand. 15
grand for what George Harrison clearly used like some child's, acrylic like paints and splattered on some
in the middle of a string change.
I mean, like literally, if my 5-year-old did this, I would be proud of him and go, "Yeah, it's a pretty good paint job, son. Well done."
Go on the fridge for a week.
Basically, yeah. All right, fine. 15 grand. Yeah. All right, click on the link.
Okay. £22,190. Yeah, but don't forget that you're giving me the Taman link, which is from Germany, so that doesn't include VAT.
That's true, or shipping.
I don't know.
Oh, God. Can you imagine what the customs bill would be for that, based on a percentage of the price?
Another 11%. You'd probably be paying close to 30 grand.
Wow.
You'd be paying the equivalent of about 3 Ultra USA Strats just in customs bills, probably, to get that in from Germany.
That's amazing. We have to find if we can get it in the UK somewhere. It's awful,
isn't it? It looks like a lollipop you'd buy at the seaside. Basically.
It basically does. Oh, you can get it at Guitar in the UK. There you go, for 23,099 English pounds for a limited edition George Harrison rainbow painted monstrosity.
And your bird can sing. Unbelievable.
And I like George Harrison as well.
Yeah. I think he's absolutely brilliant. Anyway, right.
Right, should we do a quick fire round? Because we've added, I don't think we've added necessarily any value to our Guitar Smarts listeners this week, but we've definitely had a good old man's rant about it. So should we do a quick fire round before we finish of best artist signature guitars out there and where good value is to be had, so that we can maybe redeem ourselves and add some value so that people can go and look at some of what we think might be some really good ones. Top 3, top 5, I don't know, just let's give people something to go and be optimistic about.
Okay, so number 1 for me, this is an electric guitar that's been out for the last few years, which I think is a fantastically good value guitar that's a signature instrument. It's the Fender Ed O'Brien Stratocaster in Olympic White. So Ed O'Brien, the guitarist with Radiohead, right? Not somebody who's particularly, quite a virtuosic songwriter, and he is a good guitarist, but not somebody who you consider a guitar hero. But I think that's a superb instrument. That's got a Fernandez Sustainer neck pickup. It's got a
nice,
Seymour Duncan JB Jr. Miniature humbucker in the bridge. It's a really lovely looking Strat. So appointed with some interesting features, and it's 999 quid brand new. Which is ridiculous, really, for a US Strat.
That's really good with a sustainer in it as well. That's brilliant.
Yeah, sorry, I'm saying it's a US Strat. I don't know if it is. I must correct myself just in case it isn't. It doesn't say where I'm looking at the moment, but that looks like a superb, absolutely superb.
Even if that's a Mexican made one with a Fernandez sustainer in it and those appointments, that's still pretty decent value.
Absolutely. Versatile instrument. Well worth a look there, I reckon. What about yourself? Next.
I would say I would echo what you said about the Clapton Strat. I think that is still good value for money. You can get them used at a really reasonable price. I think it's hugely versatile. Your next one?
Ooh, well, I'm going to have to be completely and utterly predictable and hear groans all around from Guitar Smarts listeners. I'm going to point out the Music Man Sterling Luke LK100, the Steve Lukather signature instrument. Obviously, his top-end signature instruments are quite expensive, but this one's, again, 800 quid, basically.
Sub $1,000
for, a guitar with a boost, push boost on the volume pot, dual humbuckers, fantastic Music Man trem system, beautiful flame maple top, stunning guitar. Absolutely.
I think they're brilliant value for money. His actual Music Man genuine versions. I mean, the Sterling ones are so damn good anyway, but the regular ones that he uses, they are expensive, but oh my God, they are works of art, and they are so beautifully made and finished. refurbished. And, you know, that we're still talking about, you know, you can get it for $3,000, which is, of course, a considered purchase. That is definitely not something unless you're super rich, that you're just literally going to buy at the drop of a hat on impulse. Exactly. But it's still good value for money and a beautiful guitar. We're not talking about, like we were 5 minutes ago, you know, $23,000 or something. That's a good guitar. So I think the Music Man ones are really good. Where would I go from there? I think I'm hopeful that the Silver Sky is going to be good. I think the PRS Santana guitars are really good value for money. Again, £700-800 for some of those. I think they're great in terms of artist signature guitars. Ibanez, again, I don't even own an Ibanez guitar, but I've set a few of them up, and I think this, if you're into Steve Vai, or even if you're not, some of the Gem Vai guitars are just such great value for money for what you get with those kind of Super Wizard necks on them and the pickup appointments that sound great. They are really good value, but Ibanez do a whole range of artist signature guitars. I was looking at one earlier today. I think it was the Nita Strauss one. You know, it's sub £1,000, and it's a really, really good amount of guitar for the money. So I think Ibanez do a great job at artist signature guitars.
Incredible. Again, they make a great range of guitars that hold those artist names, but are still within affordable reach for people who can't stretch to that top range of guitars. Ibanez, just amazing manufacturer. I've got one more as well to throw in, and I think this is probably one of the best value guitars around. I
wonder if it's going to be I think it's going to be the same one that I'm going to go for.
Oh, I don't know. I don't reckon. Okay, go on. I don't know. So this is the EVH.
Oh,
so Eddie Van Halen's range of instruments. Rest in peace. This is the Wolfgang Standard. They do various colours, but this is the one in striker red.
Yeah,
it's got a baked maple neck, baked maple fretboard, basswood body, compound radius fretboard, 22 jumbo frets, an actual Floyd Rose locking trem, direct mount EVH humbuckers, volume with treble bleed circuit, three-way. So it's just it's an incredible rock machine. How much do you reckon?
I think I know the answer to this one. I think it's less than £1,500, isn't it?
It's £500.
What?
Yeah, EVH do a range of. They do some that are up at that price that have more. They have a curved or like a carved top. But this particular one, the Wolfgang Standard, the one I'm looking at the moment, this one's in striker red, beautiful.
Oh wow,
beautiful, deep and bright red. £500 for.
Oh, that's really good value.
Absolute rock machine.
Oh, that's really good. That's really good value for money. Well, that beats in terms of value my last choice, but my last one is very polarizing as a choice, but I think definitely worth honorable mention, which is the Brian May signature red special. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of uniqueness and in terms of a very specific tone you're going to get from a guitar, really specific appointments on the guitar that, you're not going to find in terms of, seeing that every day on loads of other instruments. And it's £750. And what a great guitar. If you're a Queen fan, I think you are making a statement with that clearly, which is you're a Queen fan. I don't think anyone who's not a Queen fan is going to rock around with one of those. And I think even if you are a Queen fan as a gigging guitarist, you are making a statement playing one of those. But it's a cool looking guitar and it sounds awesome and it's well made and it's £750. I think good on you, Brian May Guitars, for that.
Yeah, and that is what a perfect place to leave it, because that's the ultimate signature guitar. You've just reminded me. My lovely wife for Christmas bought me a book on the red special guitar, written by I forget the gentleman's name, but he's got a renowned kind of guitar journalist. Worked for Guitarist magazine for quite some time. I should fact check that and drop the name in the intro when I record it. But it's a book all about that guitar and the design process that Brian May and his dad went through to build that guitar and prototypes they did. I really, I'd recommend anyone go out and buy this book. I'll try and find a link to it and put it in the description. But the process that they went through as engineers to build that guitar is utterly astounding. It's no surprise that he's still playing that original instrument to this day, because It's just an incredible bit of engineering, such a great guitar. And the fact that you can buy something that is built to be just like that for sub £1,000 when Gibson are making Ace Frehley 1959 Les Pauls and they're still going for 20 grand. It's utterly astounding. Utterly astounding.
Point well made.
To leave it.
I've got to read that book. Point well made. Thanks, mate. That was a good chat.
Well, mate, have a cracking week. Good luck tonight for your gig.
Thanks. Thank you.
You know, having a good drive there. Enjoy it. I hope it goes perfectly well and it doesn't rain all over your Fender amplifier.
Yeah, well, quite. Yeah, thank you, mate. Yeah, I'll let you know how it goes, but I'm definitely looking forward to it. I've got, an equal amount of super excitement and anxiety because it's, I've not done this for a while now with lockdown and everything. Yeah. But it's gonna be a good one. It's gonna be a good one. I can feel
Fantastic.
All
awesome,
right,
buddy. I'm not gigging, so I have nothing to report really, other than I'm just going to sit at home and play guitar probably and just chill out, watch the football on Sunday.
I've got an idea for you. Yeah. Why don't you grab your son's painting kit and his paints and his brushes and have a go on your Strat and see if you can do a George Harrison replica and we can stick it on internet and see how much money we can get for it. I reckon we'd get at least 15k for it, don't you?
So I'll speak to you next week.
That's a firm no then, is it?
Of course. No, thank you.
All right. Fair enough.
Do that. Maybe not buy a Squire and do it. Who knows?
See you next week.
Brilliant. Mate, have a cracking week. Enjoy your gig tonight. I will speak to you next week.
Yeah, cheers, buddy. Speak to you soon.
All the best, mate. Ta-da.
Bye.
That was another interesting conversation. Hope you enjoyed it. Please come back next week for more. Remember to go and give us a rating or a review using those links in the show notes. And come and join us on our social media pages too. You know where they are. Have a great week. Come and join us again next week.